build out quite a robust infrastructure, broadband infrastructure on our portion of Navajo land. And for affordability reasons or whatever, a lot of people thought they didn't need broadband until COVID hit.
Yeah.
Now it's amazing, and we're in an amazingly good position by having an infrastructure there ready for them.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, it is fabulous. And well, actually, it's a good segue into the intro here, so I'm just gonna get started.
Good.
Is Senator Padilla with us yet, Charlotte?
Senator Padilla is with us, and that was my next segue.
Yeah.
So, and we have a lot of awesome people with us today. So I'm Charla Parsons. I'm the manager of Claudia Reisner's campaign for State Senate 19, not U.S. Senate yet. I almost. And I just want to thank our speakers. I have so much gratitude. Catherine and John, I've worked with before with the State Platform and Resolutions Committee. They own Sacred Wind Communications, and they've taught me so much about rural infrastructure and the needs and where we are. And their story is really beautiful and how they got started. And I think I just have so much gratitude for the two of you for what you do for our rural New Mexicans and for what you do for the Democratic Party to educate everyone on what we need to make things even better. And Senator Padilla is with us as well. Senator, I know you're as busy as they get. Senator Padilla has done a lot of work toward improving rural infrastructure for New Mexico, along with a ton of other things. And he's helped our campaign a bit with some advising, and we have a lot of gratitude for you being here today as well, Senator. We also on the call, we have Representative Marion Matthews join us. Thank you for being here, Representative. And let's see, we also have Harold Pope, who is running for Senate in State Senate in District 23, I believe, Harold, right? We definitely, Marion and Harold are both running as well. So please, Marion and Harold, feel welcome, and Senator Padilla, to put your websites and anything else you'd like in the chat to have people come and support you as well. Yeah, I think just a few things really quick before we get started. A brief overview. We are rocking and rolling, my friends. Claudia has raised, gosh, $50 at a time. She has raised over, let's see, where are we at, Claudia? $130,000 at this point?
$135,000.
$135,000. And unfortunately, that is what it takes to really compete in a district of this size and of this nature. We've also we have over 100 volunteers. We've made nearly 10,000 canvases. So between the knocks and the calls, Claudia and our volunteers have reached out to almost 10,000 people. We'll make that this week. I could go on and on for hours about how the campaign is doing, but just know that because of all of you on this call and the people who are watching in the recorded version, we could not do this without you guys. Really quick, if you have not signed up for our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, our social media threads, please do. We put all of our events and all of our stuff up there, and it gets more beautiful and exciting every day because of our fabulous communications director, Sandy Stolberg, who's on the call. So thank you, Sandy. And then I would love to shout out to our super volunteers on this call, but I really think I'm going to say, like, all of you. Jonathan Longoria is a fantastic volunteer, has been here from the beginning. Michelle Benton also is a really dedicated volunteer. Jerry Warner is a fellow veteran on the caucus. She is a really amazing woman and a great leader. We've got Laura Stokes from PDA on the call, Neely Lang from the district, and Cliff Reese from Santa Fe. Anyway, thank you all for being here today. If you feel so inclined to volunteer for the group, we will put some volunteer links in the chat. We still have some calls to make. And what we really have that's fun coming up is lit drops. So you don't have to talk to anyone. You just get to put a mask on, put your headphones on, and drop lit at doors. It's beautiful outside, it's fall, and we have a goal to get 10,000 pieces of lit out. We've got a couple thousand out already, so 8,000 more to go. And we need your help. And then, of course, if you like talking to voters as much as Claudia likes talking to voters, we have phone calls that you can make as well. And then, of course, I'll put our donation link in the bottom. $5, $10, $20, anything helps. Anything at all helps. So I'm going to close my mouth now and move it over to Sandy. Sandy, thank you for hosting and being our MC today.
Absolutely. I am excited too. It's always just so wonderful to see you all. And these are great events that Claudia puts on, has fabulous speakers, you know, experts in the area. And I just find that I learn so much, and I'm so grateful for these opportunities to see you guys and then to learn all these new and wonderful and exciting things that are going on in the state. And the legislators work so hard. They don't get paid, and they put in their time when the session is in, and then all throughout the year they're doing work. And I mean, it's really a big task that we ask them to do, and I'm grateful that they do this for us. So I've put a bunch of the links in the side. The one part that Charla left out about the lit drop is that it's a lit drop and lunch. And so there's going to be a lunch with Claudia afterward, and it's going to be structured so that, you know, there's going to be social distancing, and you can just pick up your lunch and go if you're not comfortable being there, or if, you know, you're comfortable with your mask and being 6 feet apart, you're welcome to stay. We'll be putting all of that information out a little bit later, but you can sign up for it now if you want to do that. It's going to be on Saturday, October 3rd. And so then the other thing that I wanted to tell you about is that, you know, this is really kind of a give and take between the experts and you and your questions. And so if you have a question, just type in ask and then put your question after that. And then as time allows, we'll bring those questions up, and you'll get your answers. So I think that at this point, Charla, am I passing it off to?
Claudia will go first, and
Okay.
the speakers to introduce themselves.
Yeah, thank you so much, Charla and Sandy. Another wonderful luncheon. So I'm Claudia Reisner, and I'm the Democratic candidate for Senate District 19. So if this isn't the chat you wanted to be in, please leave the room. It's so wonderful to do these once a month. Actually, it's a little bit of me sharing. I've got a huge learning curve here. I am running for office because I want to solve problems, and I want to know about the issues, and I want to meet the subject matter experts. So I have chosen issues based on the 4,300 people I have met or talked to in the district that say, this is important to me. And rural infrastructure continues to resonate. And I'm telling you, I got a huge bump come COVID and school and working from home and everything else. So this is like the #1 issue. And I'm so glad to have these really renowned experts in this area join us. So I want to thank everyone for coming. I do want to add one thing to what Sandy was talking about. So the lunch that we're going to have associated with the lit drop, lunch is going to be served outside. So we're going to use Greenside Cafe, which is a wonderful business out here on the green side that's struggling, but we're going to have it at the house. We've got a really big patio, so there'll be a lot of space. We'd love to have as many people come and join as we can. So enough about me, and I'd like to turn it over to Senator Padilla. Would you please introduce yourself?
Thank you very much, Claudia and Charla and Sandy. I just want to thank you for pulling this together. I am overly impressed with Claudia, just for everybody else on the call. I was approached very early on by her and her team. We had a great conversation, which was supposed to last, I think, a half hour, wound up going almost an hour and 15 minutes or something like that. We're all on schedules. But the conversation didn't circle around how can I raise money and this and that and blah, blah, blah. How can I win this race is what she asked me. And what are the issues? And so this was one of the issues that we talked about. So I'm so impressed that we're continuing to have these conversations, and kudos to you, Claudia, for doing that. I took a different view of infrastructure when I came to the legislature. Water lines, roads, sidewalks, all those things are very important, and I work on all those things for my district, and they're very important. However, it is also incredibly important that we bring broadband to our entire state. And so was lucky enough to put broadband in the Local Infrastructure Act, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. And if anybody wants to give me the hook to stop talking at any point, just go ahead, Charla or somebody. Whenever I'm going on too long, I'm not shy that way. But I do represent the southwest quadrant of Bernalillo County. About 85% of it have been doing that for about 8 years now. I serve as the chairman of the Science, Technology, and Telecommunications Committee. Also serve on the Corporations and Transportation Standing Committee and the Senate Education Standing Committee, and about 8 other committees. I came to the legislature because I was not happy with what was going on in my area, and I think we need to do a lot of work in this area, and so I think Claudia felt the same way, and I'm so excited that she may be joining us soon. Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you so much, Senator. And Catherine and John, would you two please introduce yourself and talk just briefly about Sacred Wind, and we'll get into a little more later.
Okay, why don't you go ahead first, Catherine?
Okay, well, thank you. Good morning, well, good afternoon to everyone. And yes, thank you, Charla and Sandy and Claudia so much for putting this together. My name is Catherine Nicolaou. I'm the External Affairs and Marketing Manager for Sacred Wind Communications. But we also have our CEO, John Badal, who's also a founder of Sacred Wind. And so I'll let him introduce himself, and then I can give a bit of a background about the company and what we've done.
Thank you, and again, thank you to all of you who put this together. And we do certainly have a lot of talent here on screen. And I wanted to thank Senator Padilla for all of his work in promoting broadband at a policy level. And I think he has, even much prior to the pandemic, he has made this a significant issue for the state of New Mexico, and I think it's going to be more of an issue this next session. My name is John Badal. I am the founder, as Catherine said, and founder and CEO of Sacred Wind Communications. We started, well, let me say this, I have now, I think, about 38 years in the telephone business. I worked for Mountain Bell before, when it was just a local phone company. Centered out of Albuquerque, and I retired from AT&T after 16 years there, and then came out of retirement. And after being a consultant, I worked for Quest as president of Quest for 4 years. And it was a national company's inability to attend to rural problems in a rural state like New Mexico that had me leave Quest and to start this company ourselves, because we find using the local talent, we can address our local needs a lot more than having to depend on others. And with that, Catherine, please go ahead.
Well, thank you so much. So yeah, Sacred Wind, for everyone to know, Sacred Wind Communications is a locally owned rural local exchange carrier. It's an RLEC. It's a company that provides telephone, so not cell phone, but just regular landline, but more importantly, nowadays, high-speed internet. And we exclusively serve a portion of the Navajo Nation in Northwest New Mexico. 98% of our customers are Navajo. And there are parts of 22 Navajo chapters in our service territory. But we started in 2006. And so in 2007, 30% of the households in our service territory had access to E911 or dial tone service. Nobody had access to high-speed internet broadband. So now you fast forward to 2020, and I'm being conservative with this figure, but 90% of the households in our service territory have access to some of the highest speeds on tribal lands. I'm talking about 100 megabit to the home via fixed wireless. And that's just the beginning. I mean, we're the first company to provide 100 meg on tribal lands, specifically at NHA, Navajo Housing Authority developments. And then with the USDA small grant, we also in the beginning of when Sacred Wind first started, we used a USDA small grant to build a computer training center on tribal lands. We've won both national and international awards. I think one of the most interesting ones was in 2009 when the company was awarded the most inspiring small business in America. And then we've also won over half a dozen E-rate contracts, and we now provide fiber to more than 30 schools, most of them outside of our service territory, some inside. And we were also the only RLEC in New Mexico to be a winning bidder in the FCC's Connect America Fund Auction 2. And so that was really important to us as well to participate in that. And that will allow us to reach additional Navajo chapters with high-speed internet and high-quality telecommunication services. So oftentimes at this point, the question is, well, wait a minute, how does one company with less than 50 employees successfully do all of that? Well, it has not been easy, right? I mean, if it were easy, we wouldn't be here talking about the need for more rural broadband infrastructure. But to give you a few examples, in the beginning when the company started, we knew we had to upgrade the copper infrastructure that was already in the ground, because the service territory that we have now used to belong to CenturyLink or Quest. But our CEO and founder, John Badal, he knew from the get-go, we can't do business the same way that the other companies have been doing it. We have to come up with a new business model. We have to come up with a way to get service to more homes, but have it be less expensive, possibly less right-of-way red tape, but more importantly, it needs to be scalable, right? It needs to be future-proof, because we all know a consumer's need for broadband, it changes. It changes depending on, well, now it's changed because of COVID. And so out of this recognition, right, that we needed to do things differently to be successful in some of the hardest to reach areas of our state, was born this new business model. And the Sacred Wind business model is really centered around the people who need the service, the customer. And that's different, right? That's different than large corporations, because sometimes they have to, they have their, you know, on the S&P, they have stocks and shares, and they have other things that they have to abide by or report to. But when it comes to a rural business model to be successful, we find that when you center it around the customer, you have more success. And so that's what we've done. So then in 2008, Sacred Wind successfully completed a trial of fixed wireless equipment. And that was with the USDA. And so since then, we have built out one of the most robust fixed wireless networks in the country. But we don't just focus on one type of technology. We always tell people we're technology agnostic. So for example, our entire IP network is based on miles and miles of fiber. But in many places, we provide with radio waves, fixed wireless, and we specifically use the 3.5 gigahertz spectrum. Of course, there's still copper in the ground. We've shortened loops to get, to get service, better service to harder to reach areas. But all of this is important because it allows us to be flexible. And so when Mr. Badal was describing how we've been able, or he was saying, I don't know if all of you were on the call yet, he mentioned, and he can go into more detail, how during this global pandemic, Sacred Wind has been able to be there for the communities in our service territory, and even for ones that are not in our territory, but are outlining our territory, because we were flexible. Our network has, from the get-go, from 2006, we knew we had to build a scalable network. But then after we completed our network, interestingly enough, we built the telecommunications system for the Laguna Pueblo. And we've expanded also to other rural and tribal areas. For example, we've expanded to Grants, Milan, San Rafael, Blue Water, Juniper Hills, all providing about 100 meg via fixed wireless. And we understand that broadband in the East Mountains, for example, and other areas like it, is not much different or better than what we've experienced on tribal lands. And so Mr. Badal can kind of talk, Claudia, to some of your future constituents about solutions, because one of the things that Sacred Wind does is when we find a successful way of doing this, right, providing broadband in rural areas, we don't just look at it for our own service territory or just for Northwest New Mexico. You know, Mr. Badal is an expert in this industry because he's been asked to talk at the FCC level, to testify, you know, so he can talk about how this can be applied to other areas of the state.